Is this when you graduated from high school?
I was only 18 years old then.
Yes, the young one.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you for joining the Weston County Museum District presentation entitled The Forgotten Years. And the focus for today's discussion will be the 1940s and early 1950s. And we have some distinguished guests who attended high school in Newcastle or somewhere down on the Cheyenne River, some, during that period of time. And so the opportunity today is to pose some questions to these honored guests and see what we can glean from their history to learn about life in Weston County or in Newcastle in the 1940s. This is a program that is put on by the Weston County Museum District, and my name is Mike Jording, and I'm the president of the Historical Society, and cooperating with the Museum District in this gathering, in this presentation today. And you all know Dr. Ryder back here, and when the appointment is at 1 o'clock, we're supposed to be there, right, Jenny? So we're just a few minutes late, and that's not uncommon, is it? So thank you, Annie and Connie, for coming. The program that you have before you is a collection of images from the Newcastle High School yearbook. And so I have collected some names here, or pictures of some of the people that were in those classes. And just for identification purposes, I want you to, first of all, just pay attention to the first page. And there's a woman and a man first at the top of that. And can anybody tell me who those two youngsters were?
These two?
Yes.
That's Jimmy Hansen and Zilpa.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right. And what the collection to be able to put their pictures in this, it's going to demonstrate, I call it a love affair in school that persisted beyond high school. So we're going to be able to talk about that, and I'm going to ask our participants what was going on in the 1940s and early 50s with boyfriends and girlfriends, and did those relationships extend beyond the school or not? So there's another lady halfway down on the other side of that front page, and do you recognize her picture?
Lois Ann.
Lois Ann, that's right. So now an important thing to remember with Lois Ann is that her maiden name was Jocelyn. And so we all recognize Jocelyn as a name that is tied to Newcastle and to Weston County. And she married Bill Baldwin. And so we now know her as Lois Ann Baldwin. So now there's two gals down at the bottom. And I wanted to know if you can recognize the gal on the right. Her first name is Ruth.
What?
Ruth.
And something.
It's Ruth Bogue
Oh.
Richards.
Oh.
So then turn to page 2. Now,
I've labeled this page "The Stories Untold." Today we're going to tell some stories, and the people that are here are going to provide us those stories. But those 4 people on page 2, we don't have their stories. And I wanted to know if you could identify the gal on the top left. Well, her name was Jeanette Klein. Jeanette Berdal. Jeanette Berdal. And who's that handsome young man to her, to the right?
Tom Whitley.
Tom Whitley, there you go. And does anybody recognize that handsome young man down on the bottom left? John Earthman, that's exactly right.
John who?
John Earthman. Yes. Now, one of the problems that I have is sometimes I can't remember the names of the people who I put pictures in. So the gal at the bottom, she's a striking young lady, but I don't recognize her. I can't remember her name. Does anybody recognize her and could give a name to her?
Would it be Fern Highland?
I don't think so.
I don't, she's a very pretty lady.
We'll figure it out here.
Don't keep it.
So then you'll see the, on pages 3 and 4, we were scheduled to have this program 1 month ago, but it was cold and snowed, and we had to cancel that. And I think all of the people that are on the list then were going to participate, but some are not able to be here today. And so the stories told, we're going to learn about those stories today. I have developed some questions that I'm going to lead some discussion, but I would like to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to ask questions to our honored guests. So you recognize Jean Baldwin. Raise your hand, Jean, yes? Class of 1944. Correct, Jean? And then Joyce Strickling, not able to be with us today. She was the class of 1950. And then this young man to my right, this is Russ Christensen. Class of 1947, correct? And Jim Dixon was going to be with us. He wasn't able to. He was class of 1953. And then this young lady right here, Shirley Hansen Borgialli. Class of 1953. And then Don Howell was going to be with us, but he has another commitment, and he was class of 1954. And then Lois Ann Baldwin, class of 1951, isn't able to be with us. She's in Casper today. So let me just begin by bringing up a question sheet. And, so I'm going to just pose this question, I guess, to the guests in general for right now. But the first question has to do with Newcastle High School. So Newcastle High School, there was a castle on the hill, and then below that there was another school that was built, and I think we would call that Newcastle High School. It was at the high school that you all attended, just below the castle on the hill. Okay? And tell us about going to school there, Gene. Tell us some memories about going to school at the high school. Did you walk to school, or did you drive to school, or did you ride a bus? How did you get to school?
Well, I lived in the country, of course, but we had a bus. Johnny Keeler drove our bus. And the school, I remember, as you went in, there were double doors, and on the left was the gymnasium. And the guys would give anything to go into the gym after school or on the weekend to shoot baskets. But the janitor who lived across the street was, I think, Frank Cummings. And he wouldn't often open the gym door so we could go in there. Guys would bring their own basketballs in order to get to shoot and play, you know. But after you passed that, then the girls had a home ec room. After a short flight of chairs.
Cheers, yep.
Stairs, yes. On the right side was a place where they stored coal for the furnace. Semis would drive up and that outfit had a big cap on it, and they'd run the coal for the furnace into that place. And allegedly, on the third floor of the high school then was the accounting department. And allegedly some kid threw a typewriter out of the window on the cement surface of this gold storage place. And I know what happened to the typewriter, but I don't know about the kid.
When you,
Sure.
Glenn asked, was that you?
No, dear, no, I wasn't high, thank you.
Okay, all right.
And, but the school, big gymnasium, and they had a place, Russell, you remember in the auditorium, they had an island kinda on the left side of the stage, and they had a piano on that. And, we young students who took piano lessons would have a concert there. And it was quite important to walk out there and play Country Gardens, which all us dummies could learn.
Let me ask you a question. Who was the piano teacher at that time?
Sybil Jackson, and her husband was Percy Jackson. He had a furniture store where Isabella is, and he had he was also a mortician.
Okay.
And one of the important things about the upstairs part was back in the old days, I don't remember just when, but when two neighbors of ours met at a fence gate, and one guy beat the other guy with a pair of fence pliers. And so they had a coroner's deal upstairs, and it must have been in the summer, and it must have been 100 degrees in there. But everyone wanted to hear what the coroner had to decide about who was the guilty person, who was killed, and so on. That's a long way from high school.
Well, no,
Sorry.
We're going to get back to the high school. Shirley, I wanted to ask a question. Gene said that they entered the door and you could go right or left. And he said that you went left, and he mentioned the home ec department. Did the boys go in that door just to go see the girls there?
I don't think so.
Were you in home ec?
Yes, I was in home ec, and my teacher was, she was Blinker.
Almost.
Blinker. And we had 4 years of home ec, and out of this we had FHA, which is the home, it was equivalent to the FFA.
Future home ec.
And we all belonged to that, and then there was a dance in the fall we had to decorate the gym. And then, of course, we learned to cook and to sew.
Well, when I was looking through the high school annual, I saw a picture of you. You were kind of like an honored FHA member.
Yeah, I could.
Do you remember some of the awards or state awards that you might have received?
No, but I did get one from Mr. Fields. He took us to Laramie, and we went to, it was like a newspaper class down there.
As the point guard, as a team leader, what do you do personally? What do you do to help your team get to the level that I know you guys all want to be at, and I know your fans want to see at?
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to stop, preparing and working hard when we're not in practice. I'm going to continue to get in the gym. But as a leader and a teammate, right now, we're coming off a losing streak, and we are the desperate team. We need to figure it out and find a way to win these close games, because I feel like with all the top teams that we've played to our competition, whether it's up or down, and we just haven't been winning these close games. I feel like, over time, we can't keep losing these close games. We got to start to figure out the small one-possession mistakes or the small late-game mistakes that are losing us these games in a close situation. And, I feel like we just have to understand that it's the Mountain West and we can't come out flat versus anybody.
He took us to Laramie, and we went to, it was like a newspaper class down there, and we had to judge the store windows at Laramie, and I judged it and got third place.
Very good. I think that's what I saw in the annual.
Yes, it could be.
Yeah. Let me ask a question about the coal that Gene was talking about. Do you remember the big coal bin that the trucks would park?
Well, yes, and we needed those, and in '49, the coal ran out. There wasn't any more coal coming in because trains couldn't come in.
So where did they get the coal? Did it come off of the trains, or was it trucked in from somewhere?
No, it was on the trains.
Okay.
Got it someplace and brought it in.
Okay.
So things got pretty cold in '49.
Well, we
I mean, the school.
eventually didn't have school.
I was in there all out. It got damn cold in '49.
Yeah. That's a good question. Russ, Gene was talking about the gymnasium, and do you remember the gymnasium? Can you tell us about the floor or the building of it?
Well, the floor was just a good hardwood floor.
Good hardwood floor.
And they didn't want anybody on unless they had tennis shoes on or barefooted.
Where did the fans sit at this, around this gymnasium? Do you remember?
Well, they just sat around the edges of it.
Was there a balcony around this too?
No, just some
Some bleachers.
No, there
that's
was
all
about,
I had was bleachers.
All right. So do you remember any of those outstanding basketball players for Newcastle High School?
I don't really remember any of their names now, but if I looked at my yearbook, I could tell you.
So if you look, go ahead, Gene.
Well, Tom Whitley was one of the better players. Jimmy Pishotti was a senior, I think in '44. And he went to play Sheridan one time, and the Sheridan Press had an article about the game and said Jimmy Pishotti was the best player on the floor. Of course, they beat us, but I remember Whitley was one of my best friends. And he used to tell me, like you said, the people sat right close to the edge of the floor on both sides. And Whitley said when they'd have a timeout and we took the ball out where the opponent's people were sitting, Whitley would take the ball out and they'd pull the hair off his leg.
Just to get an advantage, huh?
Yeah.
Yes. Russ, tell the crowd where you first went to school, elementary school and then middle school, and then tell us about high school for you.
Well, I went to middle school and lived all that down in the Cheyenne River for the 10th grade. I came up here in the 11th grade. I'd drive from home on Monday morning, and then I'd go home Friday night, and I stayed down at the Kirkwood Hotel. Lived during the week when I was here.
Tell us where the Kirkwood Hotel was.
Well, you know where the mortuary is now?
Yeah.
It was right on the corner, south of it.
Okay,
That's where it used to be.
very good.
Jenny Kirkwood and her mother ran it.
Okay, so the listing in the pamphlet that's provided today, it has a listing of the activities that you did, and the first entry, I think it says 7 Mile School.
Yeah, 7 Mile School.
So tell us about 7 Mile School and your participation there, and do you remember any teachers there?
When I was in the first grade, Glenn's great aunt, she was teaching the school, and it was right on the hill from the house, and she'd get tired of teaching me and her boys, so she'd send us down to my mother. So she couldn't get along with us. We were too darn nervous for her. Yeah, and then after it was there, it moved up between our place and Reed's. And that, we walked all 3/4 of a mile to school till the first bus we had, I was in the 6th grade. And after that 8th grade, I went to the central school, which was across the river, south of the Gibbs place up there. And then we came back to on the road right there by where Zook's turnoff is, and there was grade school on the south side, on the east side, and high school was on the west side of the road. Now, that's what it was just an old tar paper track too.
Sure. So those schools, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, are they in Niobrara County or are they in Weston County?
Niobrara County.
Niobrara
Yeah,
County.
they're all in Niobrara County.
Did anybody have any problem with you being, going to school down there and then coming up to Newcastle High School?
No, all they said is that, we knew all the board members up there, and they said, boy, stand him up there, we need more boys.
You mentioned something about perhaps your mother taught you?
No,
What school or not?
Glenn's aunt.
Glenn's aunt, okay, very good.
And she taught started my brother in school, she started my sister in school, and she started me in school.
Oh, very good.
Dr. Russell won't tell you, but he was an outstanding end on our football team. Yes. Yes.
Very good. So that school that you attended for high school, was that relatively new high school at that time? Or what had been established maybe 10 years before, or?
Well, I think it had been, hadn't it,
It's been quite a while before we started.
Yeah.
Okay.
And one of our outstanding players, you remember Dick Hamill
Yeah.
from Lusk, or from a little town outside of Lusk.
I think you got that road.
Yeah, yes, and he played for Wyoming, and he played at the, not the Sugar Bowl, but we played in one of those big bowls one of those years.
Yes, the ball.
Yeah, and Campbell played in that bowl, big husky kid,
Yeah.
yeah.
They grow big husky kids down in Niobrara County, don't they?
Well, Russ don't claim me because I live north of the river. My address is Newcastle. The paper over there said, no, I don't belong to Niobrara County, and I've lived in Niobrara County all my life.
Shirley, Jean had talked about going up staircases in the high school. Do you have memories of the flights of stairs inside the school or flights of stairs outside the school?
Well, there were flights of stairs outside to get into those big doors, and then there was flights to get up to the second floor, and that's, I think for most of the county with that, and I don't know what was on the third floor, do you?
Third floor.
Yours?
Well, that was the typing people.
Well, I thought, yeah.
Yeah, they had typing classes and stuff there. And, I can't remember, and then bookkeeping also, right? Yeah.
I was wanting to know if you had any memories of that big long staircase from the high school up to the castle on the hill.
Some people tried to go down the banisters of the, that was a no-no.
What was that banister made of?
Well, it was, not at school, it was oak.
It was wood.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. So what happens when people do that? Is they just go too fast and get hurt, or they get?
No, they don't get hurt, but teachers usually their,
I see.
the devil, or whatever they do.
Well, let me ask,
Mike, I've got a question.
Yes, Steve.
There's the main school, then there's one up on the hill. Were they using both of them at the same time?
One up on the hill was the grade school.
Oh, okay.
so do you want to tell us any more about that being used as a grade school? Did your brothers and sisters go into that school? Shirley?
We, all went to the grade school on the hill, and then from there, we went into the high school that was down below, the one we're talking about.
Did you ever get to ring the bell in the grade school?
I don't think so.
Well, there was big bell.
It's in the tower, right?
Yes, and they had a cord, a rope about that big around come down, and they used to ring that sucker for opening and noon and every opportunity. And it seemed like the girls, 2 or 3 of them could get a hold of that rope and they'd ring the bell up and down and up and down. The boys never got to.
Were they ringing the bell for a particular reason, Jane?
Well, for when school started.
When school started.
Yeah, and at noon, come in, you know, yes.
Well, let me change the discussion just a little bit. I wanted to have you talk to us about patriotism in school. Russ, about patriotism. What were the feelings of teachers and administration to be a patriot of the United States, to honor the United States? Tell us what was going on at that time.
Well, I think they all liked the country and everything, and they wanted to do everything they could for it. But anymore, I don't know what's going on.
Okay. Well, things have changed a little bit, but in the yearbook of Newcastle High School, they have a lot of reference to kind of post-war activity. And Shirley, do you remember any about that? Do you want to tell us about that?
Yes, when I was in the first grade, my folks were out in the kitchen talking, and I heard them, and I went out there, and they just declared war on Japan, and I was scared to death. And they assured me, no, it wouldn't be over here, that I was okay. So I went to school that morning. I was in the first grade, and every teacher had a radio, and they were all listening. And from that, we had to participate. Well, we didn't have to, but everybody wanted to do their part. And we had to buy war bonds, which is a little stamp you put in the book. I think it was on Fridays. And then we had to go out in the country, and we had gunny sacks, and we gathered bones. And then we had iron, which we put on took to town and put on the trains, and that was for the smelt down and make jeeps and bullets and everything else. And then out of that, we had rationing, a rationing book. And they rationed sugar and tires and tea and coffee and gasoline and shoes. And if you ran out, now I always wore my shoes out. I had to borrow a stamp from one of my siblings and hope that they didn't need it till the new stamps came out. And then gas, if we had so much gas we were allotted to, and if you ran out, I don't know what you did. You had to pull on ranches. We're allotted more gas than what we were. And then this came into, about the 8th grade. We still had a lot of problems.
So did that rationing trait carry on in your life, or did you kind of get free with your money after a bit?
The new store. This is the one-stop shop. We have a pharmacy. We have a bootlegger's liquor. The deli, the food that you can get at a lunchtime is so amazing. The coffee shop. Certain Friday mornings, there's 30 people sitting here in all these chairs. This is the hub for people to come and visit, have their coffee, have their donuts. It's amazing what this area has done. Totally amazing.
So did that rationing trait carry on in your life, or did you kind of get free with your money after a bit?
Well, yes, not too long ago, we had 55. We were supposed to drive 55. And it was really hard for people to drive 55 and conserve gasoline. But people did.
Okay. Gene, tell us about your memories about patriotism or wartime or post-war time in Newcastle.
Well, it seems like the school always participated in any parade that the VFW might come up with. We had a band at that time, and the activities people would have floats, the football players and this and that. And like Shirley mentioned, there were gas stamps. Gas was probably 20 cents a gallon then. And I can remember there were gas stamps for, if you were a rancher, you could get a stamp for if you had an electric motor running a pump. And you could get several kinds of stamps. And I remember I was a scrub on the basketball team, and I was allowed to go on a trip over to Powell and that country. And the school didn't have any buses. They drove private cars. And my dad had a big Chrysler, which they always wanted to use. So we took it, and I remember we drove over there, and the car was low on gas. And the coach said, after we got all settled, the coach said, give me what gas stamps you have, I'll go see what we can do. Well, he was gone about an hour, and when he came back, the tank was full of gas. I don't know how he worked it, but there it was.
Good, good.
Mine,
Yes.
I was gonna add to that patriotism, you know, after the war, 1947, up on the hill, the school on the hill, they had duffel bags and we filled them with clothing or sheets or towels or whatever and sent them over to Germany and France. I can remember that. I can remember stuffing those duffel bags.
And the destination was Germany or France? Was it destined for civilians or soldiers?
Civilians. It was
Civilians.
after the war.
After the war.
After the war. Yes,
Okay.
I remember. And, you know, my mom found clothes to sell
Sure.
amongst all the kids.
Then,
I just wanted to tell you that I have my mom and dad's ration book.
Oh, yeah, I
When
have.
we were living in Long Beach, that's where I was born.
Sure.
And I have the ration book. There's a lot of stamps in it, so maybe I can use them somewhere.
so the book has
There's a little book
places.
about this house, and it had things for groceries and gas and all those, and little
Sure.
coupons.
Sure.
Yeah.
In this, oh, go ahead, Shirley.
In connection with what she mentioned about the clothes, my grandmother used to get together big boxes of clothes to be sent to Hungary. And it has to be sent to Canada and then over there, and then of course the Germans went through it. And they took off all the stuff that they wanted, and whatever's left, they went to Hungary. If there was a new pair of shoes she sent, she had to take them out and scuff them all up so that they were old. Otherwise, they would take them.
That's interesting. I have just not heard about that, the giving of that post-war period of time. So when you were in school, Russ, did the school have drills to kind of remind you that there might be danger at some time?
No, they didn't, because I went to Laramie the first year. I went to Laramie the year after I got out of high school, and they made us take our own TC down there. But that was all up there, they didn't make us do any of that. And like, when the rationing was on, my mother would leave it and make us try to go down and cut a bee tree down on the river, we cut a tree and get honey. That's what she used for sugar. But I know that after she died, I was going through some of the stuff, and I found a couple of ration books in them. And I don't know what I did with them, I probably just threw them away.
So this was war and post-war time. Did you have classmates that left school early to join the military? Gene?
Yes, that's how I got to play football. All the big tough guys left. Paul Lyman was one of them.
Okay.
And Dick Campbell, which I mentioned. And we had an awfully nice guy from Edgemont that played. But all the guys would graduate early. If you were a freshman, you could get credit for senior classes, and they'd give a diploma and graduate early and join the.
So they might join the Army at 17 years old, and so they would leave school after 16 or leave school after 2 or 3 years?
Yes.
Yes.
Then we were also encouraged to have victory gardens. And of course, my mama and dad had victory gardens before this ever came up. But everybody was encouraged to do that, to do their fair share. We were poor, but I didn't know it. We had enough food, and then my mother made all of our clothes. Did a wonderful job.
Shirley, was that a garden that was at your ranch, or was that somewhere else?
Spaded the ground here in town because it's the season's earlier in here than what it is north. So my dad took care of the gardening here, And then Mom took care of the garden at the ranch.
Yes.
Good.
There was also a victory garden out by the LK.
Yes.
Yes, that's what I was wondering, if there were multiple victory gardens.
Kind of.
Yeah, I think that's correct,
I mean, I
Ann.
remember my parents had a plot out there, but
That's right. Well, one of the other questions that I wanted to ask, somewhat related to military activity, is I wanted to know what the thoughts were about tattoos. Did kids in school get tattoos? You never saw any, huh? Shirley, did you ever see any tattoos?
Shirley, do you have a tattoo?
So nowadays, kids do have tattoos, you know, there's a lot of tattoos, and not just kids, but, you know, everybody. And I was just wondering, do you have any memories as far as when tattoos kind of came about being popular, or?
Well, we had an old neighbor down there, he was in the Navy for
It was military.
19 years, and he had tattoos all over.
Jerry Anderson had a tattoo.
But he said, he was in lunch one night, and he was getting pretty drunk, and the bartender was gonna throw him out. Well, Norman pulled his coat on and said, come on, he said, I've been thrown into better places than this one. 7 feet. He was trying to throw me out. Well, they went back and give him another drink.
I see.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's right. As I was looking up information about tattoos, I mean, it was kind of military type of stuff, and I don't know if any branch of military had more likelihood of having the Navy.
the Navy.
Yeah. Connie?
Well, when we were in the 8th grade, Jerry Anderson was a teacher here, and he'd roll up his sleeves and he had a tattoo because he was in the Navy or Army or something during the war, and we were all just, we'd never even seen one before.
Yeah.
And that's the only one I ever saw.
Oh,
yeah.
You used to see those ones that said, love
Mom.
mom. Army soldiers could not have them until quite recently. Oh, really? You could not have in the Army. The Navy, they had tattoos, and I don't know about Marines, but the Army was not allowed to have tattoos. I mean, I suppose if you had one in an invisible place, nobody'd know, hopefully. But it was immoral to get your ears pierced when I was in high school. You couldn't,
You couldn't color your hair either.
Yeah, that was, you were.
You couldn't wear pants to school.
Well, let's talk about fashions, okay? Let's talk about fashions. So, Jean, what did the guys wear to school? Was there a particular dress code?
No. No, just your regular everyday clothes you wore at home.
Did you have any days of the week where you had to wear a coat and a tie?
No, I don't remember any.
When you went to play ball?
No.
When you were doing events or traveling to another town, did you have to spruce up a little bit?
No, you wore a clean shirt.
That's nice to know.
Clean shirt.
Shirley, tell us about dress code for gals in
We
school.
did have a dress code. The girls were not allowed to wear slacks. They had to wear dresses all the time. And it was cold, and we walked from my house up to the schoolhouse, and we wore no pants because you couldn't wear slacks. And I think one day a week we did dress up. And that was on Friday, and you had to wear your best clothes.
Okay.
Well,
And then there was, go ahead.
Bart.
even in the early 50s and the late 50s and early 60s, this would be Elvis Presley era, there definitely was a dress code. And the a girl had to be able to kneel down, her dress had to touch the floor, the hem of her skirt. You couldn't have them any shorter than that, but you had to be wearing a dress. Nobody even thought of wearing pants. And for guys, jeans were kind of iffy. But if you did wear jeans, you weren't supposed to, but if you did, any pants. The guys had to have a belt. And
Their
Tom
shorts
Boss got
tucked in.
sent home time after time for not having a belt. And sometimes they tried to embarrass the guys by making them wear a robe instead of a belt. But you had to have a belt.
Hey, Russ, tell us about the dress codes at the 7 Mile School.
Oh, just wore what they wore. There was no dress code whatsoever.
Sure.
So I always had to walk to school, say I walked till I was in the 6th grade. And sometimes the snow would be that deep, and I couldn't even see out over the, would go to school.
Sure.
How far did you have to walk?
A little over half a mile.
So you
When I
heard,
first started, I only had to walk about 100 yards.
you heard Shirley telling us about during the post-war or even wartime that some of her shoes wore out and she wasn't able to get new shoes. Was that the same way it was? Is that the same way it was on Cheyenne River?
Well, we didn't have much of that trouble, of course, like with me. I'd walk 2 miles, stick my horse, and ride a half a mile. My shoes lasted a long time.
Mike,
Yes.
you know, my granddad had a shop down over from his house, and he had the iron shoe sizes, and when our soles would wear out, Mother'd take them down and Grandpa'd cut out a new sole and put it on for us. And I don't know what ever happened to, he had all different sizes of those metal things you slip it onto. Yeah.
It's kind of like a retread.
Yeah, no, but we had retreads a lot.
Well, when the war broke out, then Japan cut off our rubber supply, so we couldn't make any more tires. So we had to go to synthetic tires. And they didn't last on cars or trucks. So that was just, we had to learn to make a better product, and we did.
Sure.
I never heard of a synthetic tire. What is it made out of? Does anybody know? Because I've never heard of that.
Oh, no.
What made out of?
The tires.
Walter was asking about synthetic tires. What were they made out of? Like
Apparently out of some type
out of plastic or some petroleum product?
Well, I guess, but it was from here, it wasn't from Japan.
Yes. Well, I want to ask some questions about how boys and girls treated each other in school and in Newcastle when you were growing up. And Jean, did you have, you must have had girlfriends because the picture in the pamphlet is, you're a pretty sharp-looking guy there. And several of the girls here said, my gosh, Jean, I'm not sure what they were talking about, but they were kind of surprised. Tell us about how boys treated girls.
Well, I think they had respect one for another, really. And like Shirley said, the girls wear skirts, and they were very pretty girls, every one of them. And I had a girlfriend who was a friend, my family had a friend by the name of McAvoy. And he was a lawyer, and he later became a judge here. And he had 2 daughters, and one of his daughters was my age, Dorothy Ann McAvoy. And so by the 2 families knowing each other, that helped me out. But there were many girls that were very pretty, and I'd like to mention one of them, Connie Reimer Voss, was one of the prettiest and energetic girls in our school.
Did she go to school with you, or was that a few years later?
Well, she was in school at the same time I was, but somehow I I wound up being the director of the annual. And I didn't know anything about the annual at all. But the kids took it over and they put out a pretty good one. But Connie was in charge of sales. And the kids would go around to businesses and ask if they would buy an ad in our annual. Well, we got started and we went along and we went along. And all of a sudden the sales weren't doing very well. And the kids would go around to businesses and ask if they would buy an ad in our annual. Well, we got started and we went along and we went along. And all of a sudden the sales weren't doing very well. So we had a meeting and I remember Connie came in and sat down on the table. And she said, "You kids gotta get busy. We're going in debt on this annual, and I want you to get out there and sell those ads." And do you know what? Sales great.
Well, that's when you were a sponsor for the annual, right? Yes. And you know, the thing that, all these pictures and all these kind of questions kind of come from looking at the Newcastle High School annuals, that it's a really valuable source of history, I think.
Well, you'd have to ask Connie and some of the kids that were associated with her because they knew everyone.
Well, we worked all year on it. We
Yes.
worked all year on it. And I'm really upset now that I know they aren't doing annuals anymore. It's a part of our history, and I think they should, well, it became a class that you didn't have to take, but you could just take. And one of the teachers that retired was in charge of it. And now they don't require it, and I'd like to go to the school board and say, you can't do this. Because it's a part, it's not just for you, it's a part of our.
It is history.
It is part of our history.
Where the light
Get all of this
information.
information.
Shirley, tell me about boyfriends and girlfriends in school, and can they last a long time?
Well, some did, but most didn't. They last a couple of months and then they go on to something else.
How about Shirley Hansen?
Well, I went to school with Roy for 4 years, but I didn't start going with him until after we graduated.
What was the reason for that?
Well, I don't know.
Maybe Roy was shy and didn't want to approach you.
I just don't think we were ready to connect.
Sure. So then how many years were you and Roy married?
66.
66 years. Romances in and around school do persist, don't they?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
we do.
Yeah. Russ, tell me about boys and girls relationships on the Cheyenne River as compared with Newcastle High School.
Well, we didn't have any girls started down there, and then just, everybody went home when school was out, that was it, there was nobody going with anybody.
I see.
And till I got up here, and there was a few girls I lived with up here, but not really too many.
Did your eyes get really wide open when you came to Newcastle and discovered girls?
No, my brother and my sister graduated up there with Gene in '44, and I'd been up there at some of their deals, so I came up and they were wrong. So I knew quite a little from them. Yeah, they kept pestering me all the time.
Well,
I was only 16 when I got out of high school, so I didn't fool around much.
Tell me about entertainment in Newcastle when you were in high school.
We had dances, like they mentioned, sock dances on the gym floor. And we, with our FHA and FFA, we had like fall festival dances where we decorate the gym and then everybody would go with somebody and then fill out a dance card. And then we had the proms. And then usually there was a couple of dances in between, like there, like a Valentine's dance or Christmas dance. And so everybody.
So did boys always ask girls to go to the dance, or did sometimes the girls get to ask the boys?
Well, it could be. But most of the time, it was a boy that asked a girl.
I see. Okay.
What kind of dances? Were you ballroom dancing? Were you?
No, it was just regular dancing, night waltzes and, like jitterbug and,
Did you have a band or?
yeah, that's a rule, there was a band. Sometimes there was just, a record player, but most of the time it was a band.
About the roundhouse.
Yes,
Oh, I
Connie?
remember in junior high, when the jitterbug came out, Mr. Schmidt wouldn't let us do it. It was too strange or whatever, yeah.
Well, he didn't let us do rock and roll, did he?
Yeah.
Gene, tell us about attending dances. Did you ask the girls, or did the girls ask you sometimes?
No, they never asked me. I had two left feet. But and generally, I think the guys took the girls. They all had girlfriends, you know. And I think it was 99% the guys saying, hey, well, you could go to the dance with me Friday or whatever.
So were you allowed to wear your shoes on the dance floor, or was it just socks?
Well, they had sock dances and you take your shoes off in the gym. But mostly it was shoes.
So were the dances held in the gymnasium of the high school, or did you come down to the armory to have dances?
I don't remember. I know there was a dance hall in Salt Creek and one down on the Cheyenne River. There were country dances all over the country. And anymore, there's none of them.
Sure.
Yeah.
So do you remember coming to any dances at the armory?
A couple, but most of them were held at school.
At the school?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now you're talking about the 40's, you know.
Yeah.
You're talking about gas tickets. So you couldn't go very far in Harrison for a dance or the roundhouse for a dance. But that was pretty hard to get done.
Because you just didn't have gas, yeah.
Yeah, so most of the time, the armory was the best place.
Okay. Do you have any memories of attending movies in Newcastle, Shirley?
Yes, on Saturdays you had, I think it cost a dime to go, and it was a Saturday afternoon. And they were usually a comedy or a Western movie, and it was good.
If my memory serves me right, I think the Dobie Theater started in '53. Where did you watch movies in downtown Newcastle?
At the movie theater there,
Okay.
and, well, we must have watched it someplace before, because that was when I was graduating. In fact, I think it was before 53.
Okay. Russ, what about you? Did you get to yeah, or no, for movies and movies and other entertainment?
Oh, I'd maybe go to one once a month or something like that. I didn't go to many of them.
Okay.
Because I was only in town Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday night, and I was out again.
Okay.
And I didn't have time to do it.
Sure. Sure. Gene, what do you remember about, was there a drive-in theater at that time?
Later on, there was, yes,
Okay.
up by Johnny Strunk in that area.
Okay.
And there was a Mary Ann drive-in that was popular for sodas and ice cream and stuff. And the movies downtown, Shirley Cleveland.
Yeah.
And Ori was her husband, and Shorty ran the movie theater, and then Shirley says, 10 cents to get in, and they would have the previews, and then they would have some kind of a thing for children, which was, of course, continued next week.
Like a comic strip or something? Yes.
Something like that, and then the previews, and then the movie. And I don't like to tell you, but Mrs. Cleveland escorted me out of the movie quite a few times.
Are you sure you want to tell us that?
No.
Okay.
I know why. Why talking?
Well, when they had the Western, you had the cherry, for Gunsmoke and all that, but I cheered a little too much.
Well, I had one question that I wanted to ask you all. We've been talking about Cheyenne River folks and Newcastle folks, but also in Weston County, there's Upton folks and Osage folks. I was wondering about did you have any relations with students or friends out of Upton or Osage, Russ?
No, I didn't have any. All the kids that I run around with were up right out of Newcastle here. And that was it, but, and when we were down on the river, it was no circulating then. We'd have a card party one Saturday night, and the next Saturday we'd have a dance at the Spencer Dance Hall.
Okay.
And we sat there and played those damn cards until 3 o'clock in the morning, we'd go to dance and sit and dance. Of course, something like sneak breakfast at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Kids stay up till 3 o'clock in the morning now, but they're on their video games and things like that.
Oh, we never even went to bed, we just stay up.
Yes, we had Upton and Osage friends. They were all the same. We didn't classify them as coming from Upton or Osage. They were just like the rest of our school friends.
Sure. Gene, you lived out in the country, kind of. Did you have any relation with Upton folks or Osage folks or Niobrara County folks?
Yeah. Yes, my dad bought a lot of calves from down on the Cheyenne River. A 400-pound calf cost you $80. And nowadays, they say a calf weighing 600 pounds, a fall calf, will bring $1,000.
Oh, it'll beat that.
Yes.
Sure.
And we had friends, the Slagle lived in Osage. Elmer Slagle was the veterinarian up there. And we had friends, Fred Slagle lived in Upton, and there was quite a rivalry between Newcastle and Upton. When we had softball teams or baseball teams, every time Upton came to town, there were always sparks. And but they were friends.
Sure.
They were friendly sparks. So there was a lot of visiting went on.
Sure.
The biggest socializing was at 4-H camp up at Mallow. That's when you got to know kids from Upton. When I was in school, in the 50s and 60s, Upton, 30 miles was a long way. And we didn't see the Upton kids much, but they were, as you say, they were rivals in sports. But for 4-H, we were all at the same 4-H camp, and there were often some summer romances for the week of 4-H camp was a whole week in those days. And that was quite a deal to meet all these people from Upton.
Well, we're just past 2 o'clock. Glenn, you want to ask a question?
I have a couple of questions. Do you know when the steam engines quit coming through this area? What year it would have been? It seemed like to me, when I was very small in the late 40s, maybe 48 or 90, might have quit coming. Is that about right, or you know?
I saw that 50s.
Glenn wanted to know when the steam engines stopped coming through Newcastle.
Oh, I don't know, because it was in 49 when the trains were still powered by coal, and they ran out of coal, so.
It was on coal in 49.
Maybe early 50s?
Yeah.
We moved here in 1950, and I remember watching the coal trains.
I know I was
The
12
steam
years old
trains.
when Dad took me to Omaha, load land. We trailed them silly and loaded them. He said we could do it at Omaha with them.
How old were you?
12.
The next question I have is, when
I had
did
stopping Alliance to unload. The water was keeping there overnight, then I had to reload them again the next morning and go on over.
It's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah.
Glenn?
the next question I have is, when was the airport built or established? Was it here in the 40s or not?
Remember anything about the airport?
Yes, I don't know when it was built. We had a good, his name was Hugh B. Hughes, but that was late, that was in the 70s or so.
Joanne thought that this.
Yeah. Connie?
Well, we moved here because of oil business, and my grandparents came in the late 40s. But my dad was a pilot, and he moved here from Nebraska, and he got people together, and they all worked together to build the airport in about 1955.
Well, there was something before that, because I had, in 3rd grade, one of my classmates' fathers was killed in a plane wreck at our airport.
Yeah, but that was our
Early
airport.
50s. Yeah, that was our airport.
I have a picture of when this was in 1950.
Oh, really?
My grandfather was working for LAK, and that was when they first flew out to the Baldwin at the LAK branch that they bought in 65.
Okay.
But I have a picture of them in 55. That was a true military.
Sure.
So, I know it's not your order.
Yes.
We were talking about when the steam engines, came into, my granddad worked on the railroad out of Laramie, and he went from the steam engines to the diesel in 1961 in Laramie.
Okay. Probably would be about the same time here, I would suppose. Yeah.
I think so.
We had passenger trains, I know till 62, because my mother and I got on the train here that took us to Billings, and then we went to Portland, Oregon on the train.
We went to Denver overnight, and that would have been 62.
And it was too bad when it stopped, because they didn't drive the
Well, we've, yes, Carolyn.
Mike, I just wanted, you asked about patriotism, and I know that Russ's mother did not teach me, but I know that she taught Glenn, I think, in the 1st grade, didn't she? And all of our teachers down at 7 Mile, the same school that Russ went to, taught us in the morning to put the flag up, and at the end of the day, we took it down and learned to fold it exactly correctly. And we all said the Pledge of Allegiance, and some of our teachers had 15 minutes of scripture reading for us. But we had the greatest respect for our flag and our teachers in the United States.
Yes.
We all learned that from his mother and others.
Yeah. Very good.
My flag only had 48 stars, and we were
Yeah.
clear on everything.
Oh, yeah, well, that's a good
That's right. Well, any other questions then?
Well, Gene and Shirley and Russ, thank you very much for participating in the discussion today, and I hope that we didn't reveal any secrets that but there are some refreshments over here. Everybody can have some, and if you want to get some private time with our honored guests, you certainly can do that.
Well, that was fun. It's completely different.
In addition to the weekly printed version of the newsletter journal, we also promote our community and share important information on our award-winning website, newslj.com, and in our weekly email newsletter, Nuke Now. We also connect with readers through various social media platforms and invite you to check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can even take a look at a recent meeting of the City Council, School Board, or County Commission on our YouTube channel. We do hope that you will go to newslj.com and subscribe today, and we look forward to making all of our great content available to you. But regardless of your level of support, we thank you from the bottom of our hearts for doing your part to preserve a free and independent local press.